All right, we've got to move on. So thank you, Bob. I know I think you had one more comment. Let's bring that back over to Slack, or you can put that into the chat. I want to introduce somebody who is very knowledgeable on a number of these topics. So attorney Cindy Elkins, she's with the Elkins Employment Law. She's the principal, founded in 1998. And they are a firm dedicated to the representation of and defense of employers in all aspects of their employment law, human resources, and legal concerns. In 2020, she became a super lawyer. She's located here in California, and she's been talking about these topics for years now, but specifically related to COVID, obviously for over a month now, and become really an expert. She's published some great pieces, which we're going to share. And so now let me turn this over to Cindy. She's just going to give a couple of things that have been coming her way, and then we're going to bring her over to Slack after, so we can ask her some more questions about what's happening on the employment law side of the world.
Thanks, Adam and Trent, for allowing me to participate in the webinar this morning, and happy to participate in your Ask Me Anything when we're done. So as Adam indicated, I'm an employment law attorney in my office is in Woodland Hills, California. And, California has always been a little bit of a different animal when it comes to employment law. But I think in this situation, we're really no different than anywhere else throughout the country from the standpoint of what do employers have to do and how are they reacting and what changes need to be made. The past 2 months or so, as you can imagine, I have been utterly consumed with doing more reading than I probably have since law school on every regulation and guidance that I can get my hands on. Keeping up to date with the CDC regulations is daunting. They update them regularly, but they're really great guidance, and they have a great FAQ for business owners on a variety of topics and some very industry specific guidance. I don't think there's one particularly related to process servers or the legal industry, but for other areas, it's got some really good information. The EEOC has put out some guidance. The Fair Employment and Housing Commission has put out some guidance in relation to non-discrimination issues. And we've got to look at the employment law aspect from a very broad perspective, from the standpoint that, from the starting of how do you determine who's going to be furloughed? Are you going to lay them off? Are you going to terminate them? What does it mean to furlough, lay off, terminate? What benefits happen? That was pretty much the first month of March and half of April. Now that my clients are starting to look at the potential of reopening, we're exploring what do we need to do to reopen, from the standpoint of how do we decide who's going to be recalled? Are we going to bring everybody back all at once? Are we going to open in stages and phases? A lot of that will depend upon whether you've been lucky enough to obtain a PPP loan and what your 8-week timing there is in terms of paying your employees and getting them paid within that 8-week period. The information that I provide, I will tell everybody, because I am only licensed in California. It is California specific, and just looking at some of the names on the screen, I see you've got people from all over the place. So I may not have the information that's state specific, but there's certain things that I think any employer can do across the board. One is, create or go through a checklist, find a checklist in terms of some of the things that you need to be looking at. What assessment do you need to do? I put together a checklist, and I think, Adam, we're going to make that available to, oh, here it is right here on the screen. So it's 2 pages long. It's just a variety of things. Again, it's not industry specific, but it's things that I think are important to consider in terms of going through the reopening process. Some of them are, going to be financial. Some of them are going to be based upon your state, local, and federal guidelines in terms of what phase you are in as far as reopening, and certainly what the courts are doing. And I get an update probably every day from LA County, from the LA County Bar Association as to what the local courts are doing, and then, always monitoring what the Chief Justice is saying in terms of statewide reopening. So going through a checklist and looking at it in terms of what you need to be doing. One of the things that's going to be primary is, and not just for your industry, but for all industries, is the safety parameters. So OSHA has put together some pretty good materials in terms of what needs to be done. They've got a booklet, I think that's 35 pages long, which is rather intensive, but if you go to the one chapter on workplace safety issues, that's got some great information. Um, do you take everybody's temperature before they come to work? With your folks that are both employees and independent contractors, the likelihood that they're working from home, you're not going to have that opportunity to take their temperature when they come into work. So there's another approach that you can take is have the employee or the contractor do what I call, and it's not just me, it's what is being called in our world a self-certification or a personal history a health certification. So you have the worker at the outset of coming back to work certify for you that I haven't been tested and I don't have any symptoms, or I have been tested and I'm negative, or I was sick, but I'm better now. And it's the one that I put together is 2 pages long. And I'm not sure if you've got that or not, if I had provided that to you, but you can have the employees, or the workers go through this and let you know where they stand in terms of their own potential exposure. Is someone in their household been exposed? Should they be in isolation? If they have been exposed and or are have contracted the virus, then you certainly need to go through the CDC guidelines in terms of what it's going to take to allow them to come out of self-isolation and get back into the workplace. In terms of your folks out in the field, that's going to be a very difficult thing to manage because they're going to have to be, to some extent, face-to-face with the people that they're trying to serve. I imagine you can implement some protocol somewhat similar to what, the home delivery companies are doing, whether it's, Amazon or any of the other ones. They knock on my door, they take 8 steps back. They ask me who I am. They hand me the package is already on my front porch. I give a verbal acknowledgement. Yes, this is my package. Yes, this is me. They sign for it and off they go. So there is, it's a no contact delivery process. And I imagine to some extent, that's what you're going to have to try and implement. Of course, there's going to be the people that evade service and won't open the door, but I'm sure that that's nothing really all that different than you folks haven't had to deal with for years. Someone a few minutes ago had mentioned the remote work. The remote work is been something that many businesses have gone to without ever thinking that that's something that they wanted to do. And one of the concerns that my clients are coming up with is when they're saying, okay, employee, I want you to come back into the workplace. And the employee's saying, no, I don't want to, for either one of 2 reasons. I'm comfortable at home and I can do the work from here. So provide me this opportunity to continue work from home. It saves me time in travel. It saves me money because I'm not, having to travel to the office. And I just don't want to come in. And employers are grappling with that in terms of should they continue to allow employees to work from home? And I think that that's a really individualized case-by-case determination. Now, that being said, there could be a time when working from home becomes a reasonable accommodation under the ADA. So if somebody says, I am disabled and I need to work from home, well, first we have to go just through a regular ADA analysis. What is the disability? And what I'm hearing and seeing coming out of the COVID-19 issue is I have anxiety about getting sick. Now, anxiety and fear could be a disability. It might not be. It depends. For it to be a disability, it really needs to be addressed from a medical standpoint. So that person would have to go to a doctor and have the doctor give that person a diagnosis of, yes, they have anxiety, they cannot return to the workplace. And then you evaluate, is working from home a reasonable accommodation? In the past, a lot of my clients have said, no, that's not a reasonable accommodation. But now, since probably I would say a good 70 to 80% of my clients have structured a remote workplace, they're going to sort of have a difficult time pulling back from that, saying, no, this doesn't work for us. So that's a big employment law issue that I think is going to come out of this. And I think the plaintiff's attorney bar is going to be looking at that very carefully. One of the other questions I've gotten is, okay, I've called my employees back and they said, gee, you know what? I don't want to come back to work right now because I'm getting more money from unemployment, between state unemployment and the federal supplement. That's more than you're paying me. So gosh, I want to stay home and stay on furlough. The problem with that is that for the employee, the problem is if you have offered them the opportunity to work and they've refused for no reason other than wanting to collect unemployment, it is my belief that that would make them ineligible for the unemployment benefits, because they have to represent to EDD, or at least it's EDD here in California, that they have to represent that I have been laid off, furloughed, or lost my job because of COVID. But if you respond to the employee and say, but you haven't lost your job anymore, I'm offering it back to you. And if you don't want to come back to work, then I'm going to have to tell the EDD that, and that likely will jeopardize their ability to get the benefits.
What's the $10,000 fine?
You know, there's a couple of different things that you can do. You know, with some of my clients, going back to the question of I'm a little bit fearful about coming back to the workplace. You know, as just a business person and a human being, I can appreciate their anxiety and their fear. I've told some of my clients, you know what, let's work out a 2-week personal leave of absence for the employee. Let's not demand that they come back, because that's going to create morale issues, and I think it's going to create other problems down the line. So let's take it 2 more weeks out. You know, you've gone this far without them coming into the office. If they can continue to work from home for 2 weeks, let's do that. If you don't have work for them, or you don't want to accommodate them with the remote work opportunity, put them on a 2-week leave of absence. Again, I'm not sure exactly what impact that would have on the unemployment benefits, but, you know, I am being, I think, uber cautious in terms of giving my clients any of the green light to go ahead and terminate anybody during this pandemic, because again, I do believe that there's going to be a lot of litigation coming out of this. So Adam, how are we doing on time?
Yeah, you tell me. I mean, if this is a good place to stop, maybe it's a good time to go over to the AMA, but if you have any closing thoughts on that.
Well, I just see in the chat that there's a bunch of questions. Should we review those real quickly? I'm happy to spend a few more minutes on that.
You know what? So I think the plan was to go over to the AMA, but since we're all here, if everyone's okay staying here, and we'll just eat into a little bit more of the AMA time, we'd much rather have you in person, you know, than just in chat. So, Trent, or let me see if
I'm not seeing anything, germane to the topic in chat right now. Maybe I missed something. If anyone else sees something,
okay, I just
correct
thought that
me
there
on
was
that.
a bunch of comments. Yeah.
But if there are people who, you know, have an immediate question they want to ask.
Oh, I did see one here.
Okay.
I don't know where it's from.
It's possible it's coming straight to you.
Yeah, if it's privately, it's not a private question, so I'm okay answering it. I think it's a general question that I'm okay answering.
Yep.
The question is, should we pay remote workers for internet, phone, et cetera? Great question, and the answer, at least here in California, and this person I see is here in California. So here in California, the answer to that would be absolutely yes, from the standpoint that, gosh, it's been a couple of years now. I don't remember how many years ago, but the California Supreme Court has ruled that under Labor Code Section 2802, an employer has to compensate or reimburse an employee for any out-of-pocket expenses that they have incurred in the course of performing their job duties. So if you are having an employee work from home, then yes, you need to pay a reasonable percentage of their internet, their cell phones, and this was a rule way before the COVID issue. If you have an employee using their personal cell phone or a tablet, and this is for employees, not independent contractors, but for an employee status, you need to be paying them a reasonable amount for reimbursement of their internet and the phone. Now, the California courts did not give us any guidance as to what is reasonable. And, you know, with so many plans these days being a lot of phone data, internet, you know, for a relatively minimal price, or they're on the friends and family plans or whatever they may be, you know, what is reasonable to me, depending on how much they're using it. Before this, I was telling my clients somewhere between 15 and 25 a month, depending on how much they're really using it. But now, if they're on the internet, using their data, using their phone, and they're 8 hours a day on the computer, you're probably going to want to talk to them and say, what is your monthly bill to your internet phone provider? And let's work something out. Because this is an opportunity for an employee to sue you for violation of Labor Code Section 2802.
Great. We've got another question here, which is a good one. And just as some context, so Cindy is an expert on independent contractors and misclassification in California. Those of you that are here know what this industry has been navigating from an independent contractor perspective. Actually originally met Cindy in 2018 with Legal Talk Network at the California Lawyers Association bar meeting. And you can go listen to her episode, go to Legal Talk Network, search the last name Elkins, and you'll see her episode talking about that. But there's a question that just came up along that lines of, can we provide, and this is from Aaron, can we provide PPE to contractors without risking their status as a contractor?
Interesting question. And I will, just in terms of, if you do go back and listen to my podcast, it is with the caveat that that was recorded before AB5 was passed here in California.
That's true.
So it was after the court decision, but it was not after, it was before when the AB5 legislation got passed. So it's probably 85% still relevant, but not 100%. Going to this question, can, you know, with contractors, as I'm sure you're all understanding, you know, they are supposed to provide their own tools and equipment for performing their job. Depending on to what extent the PPE is, I mean, if it's just a matter of a face covering and some gloves, you know, I think it probably would not be a huge issue to provide that to them without and having that jeopardize the status. I mean, I think we're in such crazy times right now. And the thing that's a little bit surprising to me is the Labor Commissioner is the only agency here in California that has yet to come out and speak as to any wage and hour issues regarding this, which has been a little bit frustrating to myself and my colleagues. So I would say, you know, if it's an opportunity that you can get your hands on some PPP, I mean, I ordered face masks from Amazon like the first week of April, and I think that I have an estimated delivery date of May 21st. So, you know, it's getting this stuff is difficult, and it's relatively inexpensive if you can get it. So, you know, I would err on the side of caution and safety and provide this stuff to your contractors in addition to your employees. And I would be hard pressed to see a plaintiff's attorney go after a misclassification argument simply on that basis.
Yep.
There's a question here from David about the PPP and what's reasonable to pay yourself. I'm going to bypass any of those questions. I am not an expert on the ins and outs of the PPP payroll protection program, so I am reluctant to jump into that and answer that question. My apologies.
Sure. Okay, so I don't see any other direct questions coming to the main chat here. So Cindy, I know that there are so many considerations that we all should be thinking about with our businesses, and I saw a lot of heads nodding up and down as you were talking there, and touching on those highlights and some of those questions. And I know that there are so many more. So thank you for staying on longer on video. What we're going to do now is we're going to close out. We're going to head on over to Slack, where if you have more questions, regarding the webinar today. The serving safely definitely came up, and I think we have to, obviously not giving legal advice here, but we have to veer on the side of being safe for our community. And I really hope that nobody is in violation of their independent contractor relationship by providing equipment to keep their community safe. So let's hope that never becomes a thing. So there was one comment here. What if you left the PPE in a box with a sign that says, please take one, only one, but leave it for anybody? I wonder if that maybe changes it, but still, in terms of serving safely, you're going to want, and maybe we can ask that and answer that in Slack, Cliff, but still you're going to want to make sure that any papers that are coming out of your firm are being served safely and in accordance, with your safe serving policy. So let's head on over to Slack right now. Thank you everyone for being here and dedicating your time and committing to yourself and your business and the community here. And we'll head over to Slack to the AMA channel. And if there are more questions, we'll be there for about another, call it 12, 13, 14 minutes. And then we'll figure out the next one of these. So thanks everybody. Have a great week. Stay strong, stay healthy. And we're all here if there's anything we can do to help, and rely on your community. You got to ask if you need that help, and we'll do our best to help you. Be well, everyone. Bye-bye.